Welcome everybody to another episode of Resilient Riches. We have Jason Nolf, who's the competing, going to be taking over the entire USA wrestling team. He's an entrepreneur. He's taken his success, his 3-time NCAA championship success, and has pivoted that into #1 world team and fighting for the world team and getting to the point of being the top on the planet in wrestling, but also using his success and his drive and motivation to build his own business. We were talking before that Jason didn't know he was going to be an entrepreneur, and we really want to hear those stories. And we love these types of stories of people who are able to constantly change and pivot and to grow. So Jason Nolf, thanks so much for coming on. My dad doesn't know much about wrestling, but he's going to get educated today. I don't think you're the great educator for someone who's never.
I know a little. I know a little bit of it. I've only been to 1 million matches.
But you didn't research it. But Jason, thanks so much for coming. Can you give us a little background about you and get us going?
Yeah, so I've wrestled my entire life. I started wrestling when I was 6. I played a couple other sports growing up, but, I always specialized in wrestling. That's where I spent most of my time. My dad would drive me an hour and a half each way to practice, 5 days a week. So, it's been a huge part of my life. And, ended up getting to go to Penn State, which is the best wrestling school in the country for the last decade or so. Last 11 to 12 years. Was able to win 3 national championships and 4 team titles. Our team never lost a duel together. So, I think we had probably one of the best wrestling teams, in history, which was really cool to be a part of. And, what's cool about the Penn State program is, they care about you as a person and, spiritually and physically as a person. As an entrepreneur, there's a lot of people that are a part of the program that are willing to help you outside of wrestling in other areas. And, whether it's with investing your money early, I had a guy that named Clay Stedman who made sure I got like a Roth IRA set up when I was 20 so that I could start investing young. And without Clay or without, people a part of the Penn State program, I might not have known how to do that and not been able to get as much of a head start. So we've had such good people around the Penn State program where other programs, I haven't been a part of them, but I imagine they're more all about wrestling. And I think that at Penn State, they want us to have fun and they want us to be good people as well as, our own entrepreneurs. So we have a lot of guys around the program that really makes it special.
Yeah, so. It's pretty amazing what you're saying. It is very common. You go into sports and all they want you to do is focus on sports. But we find with wrestling is it's such a tough sport that you need a lot of motivation behind it. And if you're not well-rounded, the motivation of just wrestling all day long and only focusing on wrestling can hurt yourself and can really die down. So you lose some of that motivation. But when you start doing, I love what you're saying, a Roth IRA, because we're financial services people and we love Roth IRAs because it's one of the best tax efficient vehicles you can have. And for somebody young, it's incredible. And
would you say that that's not specific to wrestling, but that's the Penn State approach with all their sports? Because Penn State, of course, all their sports is very famous.
I'd say it's probably mostly specific to wrestling, I think, in our program. And I think a big part of it is that, our coaches believe in God and they bring God into the program. And if you can build a strong foundation in your faith and know that your value doesn't come from success, but, what you do with your life, your value comes from God and he gives us amazing abilities. And, for me, my goal is to always do the best that I can with what I'm given. So some people might be given more than me. Some people might be given less than me. But, if each person can do the best they can with, the resources that God gives them, some days you might be sick, some days you might be injured. But if you're always just focused on doing your best, then you're going to reach your potential. And, our coaches have had so much success, and they don't, like, if we have a bad match or if guys aren't competing well or practicing hard or whatever it may be, like, our coaches aren't yelling at us. They're not getting in our faces. We don't have to fear our coach ever because they're so even keeled. And I think that, that allows it, that kind of frees us up and allows us to just go out there and compete and have fun. And, on top of that, we have multiple Olympic champions, multiple world champions and national champions in the room that we get to train with. So, all ships rise at the tide. If you're if you're constantly wrestling with these guys, you're going to get better. And I think that's why we've had so much success.
Yeah, I mean, do you find, I know Kale is notorious for sitting quiet at the side of the ring, on the side of the mat. Do you find, is he like that also in practice? Is he like that also as like just a human being, just like calm, patient? And it sounds like he's just like a mentor and just part of the family that he is with everybody.
Yeah. He's pretty quiet at practice. He talks to us before practice, but then during practice, unless he's teaching technique, because we'll have all different coaches teaching technique different days. But if Coach Kell isn't teaching technique, you don't really ever hear him like saying anything unless you go up and talk to him yourself. So, there's probably guys in the room that never say a word to Coach Kell. It's because he's so quiet. And if you kind of got to go up to him and talk to him if you want to talk to him. So, it's definitely interesting. I like it because, here comes my dog.
Trying to get your water, the gallons of water you're drinking.
It was his birthday 2 days ago. So now he's turned 4. He's all excited. But no, I think that, all of our coaches are kind of that way. They're all kind of pretty reserved. For me, my main coach right now is Jake Warner. He's Olympic champ, 2012. He's the NLWC club coach, but we basically train with the Penn State team, everybody that qualifies for the club, and then they'll put the curtain down and we'll do 2 different practices kind of at the same time. But we get to wrestle with the college guys all the time, which is really good.
It's really amazing. Why is it that why do you find Penn State more successful than others? Is it just because of this all around approach, or is it because of what do you think the secret sauce is that they're doing?
I just think it's like our faith, I feel like God has blessed our program, and I think other schools, and other coaches do a good job of, bringing faith into their program too. But I think that that's a big part of our program. And again, just knowing where our value lies, and, our value isn't in whether we win or lose. It's not going to change who we are as people. And I think that gives, our team like comfort and kind of peace. And then we also do a lot of mindset training. Every day before practice, Coach Kell, shares a story or a parable or, something that to motivate us for the day and to kind of keep our perspective in line. So I think that's a big part of it. And then again, our training, I think that we have the best training. We never overtrain. We're always feeling recovered. We make sure we take proper rest days, and then, getting ready for the end of the season, we're making sure we're not overtraining. So we always peak at the right time. We have fun at practice. We play dodgeball before practice. It gets people excited to go into the room. When you dread going into the room because practice is going to be so hard, or, we're going to have to run sprints after and, wrestle so much live and do such hard drilling. Like, that's not really how we do things. So everybody's excited to go to practice. And I think that gets the most out of everybody. And we still train hard.
It sounds to me though like it's probably a lot with just the selection process. They're probably, you're probably a handpicked person, that they're bringing in so that, you're not talking about children that you have to yell at you, and that, if you don't have a good match, you're probably the first person that's feeling bad about it. You don't even need the coach to come over to you. And that goes all the way back probably to Penn State selecting you and calling those people that maybe aren't going to be as committed and as serious. And that's probably why you're as successful as you are. I mean, I obviously speak to, the blessing and all, the blessing of that part also is very important, of course. But I think that's probably where it starts. I don't know. Do you disagree?
I agree. Yeah. I think that recruiting is a big part of it, making sure that you're bringing in guys that are doing the right thing. If there's a guy that's just like a big partier in high school, we probably not, and like disrespectful to people and everything like that, no matter how good a wrestler is, Coach Kell probably wouldn't recruit that person. And where other programs might recruit that person because they're a good wrestler. But, when the culture kind of invites people like that, I think that it's more difficult to like stay consistent in winning. But if you can continue to recruit good people, people that just want to, be successful and, kind of put their, they're doing it because they love it. When you can get people that love wrestling and want to be as successful as they can be, that's when success happens. When you get people that don't want to be wrestling and, kind of hate wrestling, like it doesn't matter how good they are. If they hate wrestling, they're not going to reach their potential.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing in business, the same thing in life. If you're passionate about something and you're somebody that loves it and you happen to be talented at it, it's just those are the perfect combination. You are passionate, you love wrestling, you enjoy wrestling, and you're also very talented. If you didn't have talent, then you wouldn't love it as much because you'd be getting your butt kicked every single day. It really demotivates you when you lose so much. But what I really like what you're saying, and I think it's such a powerful point, is that you're saying that you're combining passion and talent together. Talent alone can't do it, and passion alone can't do it. How did you take that all that information, all that coaching? I mean, yes, there's people who have this, but then you took it to another level. I mean, you're one of the best really in the world, and you're one of the most recognized NCAA champions in history. How did you take that to another level? Because there's also something else there that is in that mix.
And if you need to take some water, go ahead.
Yeah, I know you got to drink.
Don't feel restricted just because you're on the podcast.
No, you're good. Yeah, I mean, for me, I just think that I have a really strong mental game, and I train really hard and smart. And, ever since I was a kid, I felt like I was always out training my competition, and I was always trying to do extra. And that helped me really get in good shape. So when I go out and wrestle, I can wrestle really, really hard. And part of my mindset is to continue just to score points. When I go out and wrestle, I'm not like thinking about winning. I'm thinking about scoring as many points as I can, and then the winning follows. And yeah, I want to win. That's why I compete, is to, one, because I love to compete, but two is because I want to win and I want to be the best. But when you just focus on like your system, like, for me, it's like move my hands and feet and get to the leg, score points fast, score as many points as I can. I'm not trying to win 3-2. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you win 3-2. And you need to, be tough in those close matches. But, ever since I was a kid, my dad told me never leave the match in the ref's hands. So I've tried to do everything that I can to absolutely dominate my opponents. And part of that is, not being afraid of failure, not being afraid to get taken down. If I get taken down, all right, get up. I got really good at bottom, so I feel like no one's going to hold me down. I'll get up and then, go get another takedown and make the match as tiring for the other person as possible, and just continue to score points. And, my goal every match was to pin my opponent. And if I didn't pin him, my goal was to tech him. So when that's your mindset, I feel like you're so much more dominant, where most guys that compete are focused on winning and losing. And then if they get, say you're wrestling the number 2 guy in the country, for me, I didn't care. I was like, I want to do the same thing to this guy that I do to everybody else. So, but, if another guy's wrestling the number 2 guy in the country, be like, they got a takedown. Oh, let's try to squeeze as hard as I can to try to keep him down and try to ride him, finish the period on top, and then try to keep the match close, kind of, where I'm like, I want to take this guy down 4 times in the first period. I want to, tech him in the second period.
Was your father also a wrestler?
No, he wrestled for 1 year, but he was on JV. I don't think he ever won a match.
That's good.
But I had a lot of energy growing up, so he just wanted to get me into wrestling. And I think that any parent should get their kid into wrestling, especially when they're young. I feel like it teaches a lot about life.
It gives you a well-rounded life and experience and perspective. And also for us, we grew up in the Orthodox Jewish world, and in the Orthodox Jewish world, it's very, very tight knit. I mean, you don't like in my elementary school, there was a girls' school, but you were separate. So you never mixed girls and boys in the same class. I never sat in a classroom with a girl until I went to college. So you're talking about like your world is so tight. You only know Orthodox Jews. You only eat kosher. You're only going to the same place that all the Orthodox Jews are going to. So you don't really have this well-rounded. But my parents were smart and they were open about it, and they understood that, okay, well, we got to break them out of their skin, and we got to show them that there's a lot more in this world, and not everyone we have to be scared of, which a lot of in tight-knit communities, that's kind of what they live on. They live on that you have to be fearful of other people. So you go to the schools down the street, and it's a black school. It's a black school or a Catholic school, and they're kicking the crap out of us because we trained 2 days a week, and it was like we were like wiped out after 2 days a week. So you're going there and you're like, wow, I thought I was good, and now they just tech me in like 35 seconds, and you realize that you have to get better, and it really opens your mind. You did something very different, and we were talking a little bit before about this, is that you took this level of resilience and this desire. And I find what your strength is living presently. Like when you're saying, I want to keep scoring, you're not thinking for the future. Oh, did I do enough to win? You went, I'm just going to keep going and keep going. It doesn't really make a difference for me. How do you translate your wrestling success to your business ventures? And can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing for business wise, which is incredibly rare for people at your level to transition into a business?
Yeah. So we were talking a little bit before we started recording, but, I was always felt like I was an entrepreneur growing up. I would have my grandma make me cookies, and then I'd go to school and sell them. And
were they good cookies, or were they just like,
how were the sales?
Chocolate chip cookies.
What'd you say?
They were good cookies. I would sell like 2 for 50 cents. Right. And I would make like $8 in a day. And like when you're a kid, like $8, I mean, that's a ton of money.
You take anything back to your grandmother?
No, I just kept it.
Smart.
Pure profit move.
That's a good grandma.
Yeah, 100% profit, which is a good deal for me. And then I would go to like the high school, and they would do like graduation, and I would sell the flyers, the free flyers. I'd sell them for 25 cents to people as they'd walk in the door. So I was always, or like the little skateboards, the little tech deck skateboards. I would find them at Walmart and then go upsell them at school. I always kind of had the business side. Like I always liked making money, and like felt like being an entrepreneur was a good thing, but I never thought that I would own my own business or anything. And actually, I was a kinesiology major in college. I thought that I wanted to go to medical school when I was done. I was always a good student, and I graduated third in my class in high school, and kind of was passionate about helping others, and maybe going to medical school and becoming a surgeon. And
after you knocked them out on the mat, of course.
Yeah. Well, I thought that, my goal was never like before college. I never thought about wrestling freestyle or international at all. I thought about just wrestling in college and then being done. In 2016, I started to see like guys like David Taylor and Frank Molinaro, other successful wrestlers starting to like, they're racking up sponsorships, and they're, able to train at the club and get paid by the NLWC. And, they found out there was like starting to become more opportunity to like more financial opportunity in wrestling, at least for the top guys. And, in my head, I'm like, I can be a top guy. And so in 2016, I saw Frank Molinaro. He was like the 9 seed at the Olympic trials, and he went through and he won the trials, and then he had to qualify his weight for the Olympics, which he ended up doing, pretty much by a miracle. And I was like, well, I'm in here competing with this guy, and he's an Olympian, and I feel like, I'm competing against him good. I can do this. And so I kind of made the decision then that I wanted to continue wrestling after college, and, and I have been since. But, going into my business now, we built a company called Athletes Ocean, and we just call it Ocean. But me and one of my old teammates from Penn State, Gino Morelli, he was a really good wrestler at Penn State. I think he made the round of 12 one year. Always had good guys to compete against, at his weight class. But he got his master's in business from Penn State. And we got together during COVID, actually, when there was not a lot of training going on. And we wanted to kind of figure out a way to get training to kids that didn't have access to a wrestling room, or, wanted to do extra even on top of what they were doing in the wrestling room. And so we built this company, with the idea of kind of doing some personal training, and we had some other ideas. It formed into an instructional video platform. So now we have a lot of the top wrestlers in the country and in the world on our platform, teaching their best techniques for, people that want to kind of go that extra mile and learn, or coaches that want to help their program to learn better technique or systems or drills. So we have pretty much a lot of the Penn State guys like, Bo Nickel, Roman Bravo Young, Carter Starachi, Aaron Brooks,
You want to learn. You want to learn from these guys.
list.
You're the hub for it.
Yeah.
It's an amazing thing that you're basically solving. People will go on YouTube, and we were actually talking to Kendall Cross, and Kendall Cross said, and we asked how come the U.S. Olympic wrestling and the USA wrestling right now is at such a high level. He goes, because right now on their smartphone in 2 seconds they can get some information that you couldn't get. So it's like, oh, I'm weak on a high crotch, or I'm weak on a sweep saying. It doesn't make a difference. You can go in 2 seconds and really learn from the best in the world. It sounds like you're solving that need and really just putting everything together instead of everybody just watching videos. You're putting all these instructional, and you're giving these guys who don't necessarily have an opportunity to make money, which is unfortunately wrestling is an very underfinanced and underappreciated financial sport. I think it is definitely getting better. You're giving them an opportunity to do that. So you found this need, and then you went into the need, and it's interesting because people were giving away that information now for free, and now you're basically giving out the flyers again for graduation and just charging a nickel for it. You can, and
yeah, really cool. Yeah. I mean, people can go on YouTube and find a technique video, one here or there. But our instructional videos are laid out in like complete systems. So if you're trying to learn like how to finish a high crotch and, all the different options for that, Carter Starachi has a 30-minute course, 30 to 40-minute course on a lot of different ways to finish from a high crotch. Or if you're trying to learn how to score from the crackdown position, I have a course on that. Or like there's like it's really built out, and they're built out very thoughtfully and in systems that allow people to learn rather than just watching one YouTube video. And it's all on one platform too. So which is really great. You can go on Instagram and you're scrolling through and you might see a wrestling video here, but then you see like a dance video, the next video, and I put like free clips out on my Instagram to promote my company. I put out free technique videos, but on the platform, I go into so much more depth, for the people. So for people that, just want to watch Instagram, that's fine. But for people that really want to dive in and learn, our platform is a perfect place for that. And, with a new app coming in a couple months, it's going to be, 100 times better for the user as well. But then on the other side, like you said, for athletes, especially with NIL now, college athletes can start to get paid for this kind of stuff, where in the past they might not have been able to. So they can make a really good amount of money. We give the majority of our earnings to our athletes. So if they promote it and do a good job of putting it out on their Instagram and everything like that, then it's really however much they're going to promote it is how much they're going to make on it.
We find the same thing actually, with financial literacy. I mean, people can go online and pick a YouTube video here and there, but it's hard to put the whole package together to give them like an overview of exactly what they should be doing, what they're going to do. I mean, we get that all the time. He says, I tried to look up these financial products online and I really couldn't get a good understanding. So that's where we come in and give them that education, just give them that total package and overview, because we don't have any prepackaged solutions, as we're fond of saying. So each one is going to be individualized, and it's difficult to do that on your own, just going on YouTube. YouTube is a great resource, but just, it's a huge forest and you can get easily lost. So what you're doing,
there's so much on YouTube. And there's a lot of like varying opinions that contradict each other.
Get that a lot. They look at something and they say, I see 10 different opinions, 10 different ways of doing it. Help me understand this.
Yeah.
Jason, so you had this moment in your life that we call it a defining moment. And it was a point where you went, I'm going to have an ability to overcome obstacles at any point. No matter what life throws at me, I'm going to be able to overcome the obstacles. It sounds like your faith is a big part of your life. But what was that moment in your life that you decided, hey, I'm not just going to be good at everything I do. I'm going to be great. I'm going to be the best at everything I do. Because we're even talking about, you have the most stacked weight class in USA wrestling history. And you're like, well, some people will go up a weight class or down a weight class. You're like, yeah, I'm just going to beat everybody. So it doesn't really make a difference. Where does that come from? Where is that source and that moment in your life that really gave you that defining character?
I can't put I've had a lot of like moments of adversity, and, well, one, every time I've lost has been a huge moment of adversity because, I didn't growing up, I didn't lose a lot, at least when I got into high school, I stopped, when I was, getting into high school, I lost a lot kind of growing up, but then after, got into high school, I didn't lose a lot. So if I lost, like that was like a big moment in my life where, I really started making huge jumps after each loss. But I would say like my mentality of like, I want to be great and I want to be the best at everything I do is just like, I felt like I was born with that. My dad always, he always pushed me, athletically, and he wanted me to be really good. And I wanted to be really good, but I felt like, what I did training wise, not very many people would ever do, growing up. So, in high school, I was doing 2 practices. I was waking up at 6, going and lifting, going to class all day, doing a high school practice for 2 hours, driving an hour and 15 minutes, an hour to an hour and a half, sometimes to practice, training, doing extra, getting home at 11, and then doing the same thing the next day. And I didn't really have time to do anything else, all while, still getting good grades. And, my schedule was pretty packed, but, just the desire to be the best, everything. I grew up around, I have there's 12 of us cousins. So there's me and my 2 sisters, and then we have 9 cousins that all lived like super close to each other. We were always playing sports. So we were playing basketball on the street, or we were playing tackle football in one of their yards, or, wiffle ball. So I always had, and I was the youngest boy. So growing up with a bunch of older cousins was really helpful for me, athletically too, because I wasn't, I was just wrestling mainly, like organized wise, and then a little bit baseball, but I was always playing with my cousins and always, kind of roughhousing with them, which has helped me.
It gives you that social life. It gives you, it gives you when people feel like they're missing out. You're like, what do you mean? I got the coolest people and they all live right next door to me, and they're my family.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I always, for me, like, I just have that desire to win everything I do. Like, I don't care if I'm playing cards or if I'm playing Uno, like, doesn't matter to me. Like, I'm going to be as competitive as possible. And a lot of times, like, I'll get people that like haven't played games with me before, and they'll be like, why do you take this so seriously? I'm like, that's how I do everything. Like
we'll make sure we don't play any Uno games with you. Uno.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Settlers of Catan. Like I'm ready to like battle in everything I do. And, I feel like that's helped me be successful. So, moments of adversity, like, where I felt, I guess proud would be a moment would be, I tore 2 ligaments in my knee my junior year of college, and, in late January, and the Big Tens are in early March and Nationals are in mid-March. And, I was able to get back and kind of recover from that, which took a lot of hard work, and where most people probably would have just said, all right, my season's over. But I was determined to get back, and I had to change my wrestling style because I couldn't really move my knee at all. So I wrestled a lot more defensively, but I was still able to win the national tournament that year.
I remember seeing that. I remember that was like the talk of the tournament. It's like this guy, it reminds me a little bit of like Kurt Angle winning an Olympic championship with a broken neck. Yeah. And like,
no, it reminds me of like, Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to get back on the field the earliest that anybody's ever done it. And he was on the field. I mean, it was too late by then, of course, but he just doesn't accept what, oh, you want to give me a limitation. I'm going to smash that limitation and something. It's just something that's never been done before. The impossible, just something that's never been done before.
One story that Coach Kale talks about is like, there's a story of this guy who basically, gets his sheep stolen, or like there's these attackers that are coming to take his sheep. And, some of the herdsmen are like, oh no, they're taking our sheep and, whatever. But then one guy, says, good. Like now it's our chance to show our strength. And, when times of adversity come, that's a really good opportunity to show your character and to show your strength. Because if everything's always, and to build your character, if everything's always going perfectly according to plan, you never really have to grow. You can always just kind of stay comfortable. But, when challenges come, that's a really good opportunity to kind of show your strength. And I felt like, with my knee being hurt, I kind of took that mindset. I'm like, and now, coming from Coach Kale with the stories, and that's part of our mental training that I talked about earlier. It was allowed to change my mindset rather than, dang, why did this happen to me? Now I can't win the Hodge Trophy, and which is basically the Heisman. You have to be undefeated in wrestling to win the Hodge, which I was on track to do probably. And now I can't do this, and now I can't do all this stuff, and I'm hurt, and what if this happens? Rather, I was like, okay, let's go. Let's still win, even with 2 torn ligaments in my knee.
If you don't have that on your video site already, that's something that you should put there for sure, and something that you should talk about. Besides just the physical techniques of how to wrestle and doing the crotch track or something, whatever it was. High crotch. Okay, that's something I never heard of before. Then you have something like this that talks about the mental awareness and mental strength, and I've heard this like from other wrestlers also, and some of my own kids also, including Yair, one of the championship Jewish one, so it wasn't as challenging perhaps, but that's like an important aspect of everything, and everything everybody does is to have that mental strength and to look at adversity as an opportunity, not as a setback, but an opportunity to actually live your best life.
Yeah, and we find that very similar with money, that resilience is such a key factor when it comes to building wealth and building success, is that there will be times that the markets will go down. There will be times that all of a sudden you won't have a year like you had the year before. There will be times that you invest in something and it goes sour. But if you structure your finances, structure your money to be able to be adaptable and resilient to all situations, and the same thing that you did with your body, you used your resilience and your ability and your competitiveness as an edge. I'm like you. When I was in the Army, people complained all the time. They're like, "Why are you so competitive? We're not like in war right now. Like, why do you have to always be the best?" It's like, because that's just me. I don't know anything else, and that's all I'm going to do. And if you're faster than me, I'm going to be very upset because I'm going to run later until I beat you.
It's funny because we have some similar stories of Yair selling in his high school and his.
Oh yeah, I used to sell sodas, and then people undercut me, and then I had to go. I would like refrigerate them and bring them in, and then I had to like pay off. I had to discount the teachers so they rat me out. I had a whole thing, but it wasn't pure profit. Costco sold sodas for 22 cents a can.
I think it was Snapple.
I used Snapple and sodas. I'll never forget. Right. Jason will never forget what type of cookies he sold.
Or the flyers that he ripped people off because they were going to get for free.
But it's the same thing. It's using that. It's instead of saying, "Oh, the market is down, I'm done, forget it, sell everything." It's having the mentality and being able to be prepared for any other situation. And I find resilience in money is such a good conversation, and it really brings things together. And that's why people like you are always going to be successful in everything you do. How are you viewing, and just because it is a money podcast, how do you view money? Because you're not the entrepreneurship side, yes, sky's the limit. You could sell the company, make $1 billion. But the wrestling side is not it's not a monetary feeling. It's not a monetary reward. How do you view money, and how are you able to overcome the limitation that the sport provides?
I think that I've been blessed with the opportunity to probably earn more than most other athletes in the wrestling community. Being from the Penn State program, I think that going to Penn State gives you an opportunity because you have such a bigger brand, coming out of Penn State. And I had guys like David Taylor, Bo Nickel, kind of set the standard for that and for earning. And so, I've definitely been I've been able to I would say live comfortably with what I'm doing. And, but I have to go out and do clinics, and I'll take t-shirts and sell them at my clinics. And, I'll kind of do that grinding lifestyle where, I try to take advantage of my opportunities. And, if someone wants me to do a clinic, I do, a good amount of clinics. And then, but I also have sponsors. I'm sponsored by Scrap Life, which is my apparel company. I just actually got this water bottle sponsor, Spirit Water. So they're in New York. And then I'm sponsored by Jocko Fuel and, sponsored by Titan Mercury. So I have some good sponsors that definitely help me be able to compete without having to worry about, the financial burden. But at the same time, like, I'm still an entrepreneur. So if someone's like, I'll pay you this to come do a clinic, I'm like, all right, let's do it. And so that's kind of how I, and then spending wise and investing, kind of how I view it is, I want to keep a little bit in my bank account just to, in case, like, cause I own a house, I own 2 houses. I'm also a little bit into real estate and I do a little bit there, but in case something, if the water heater breaks, that I have to, go buy a new water heater, or if, there's a leak in the ceiling, I have to pay for that. So I like keeping money in the bank a little bit for that kind of stuff. And then, if I want to go on vacation with my wife or something like that, but then I try to invest the rest of my money. And I just give it to, I have a financial advisor I just give my money to, and, I set up my own LLC. So, I'm an S Corp, so I can pay myself and then kind of invest into a 401k. And then I have a Roth IRA, and then the rest of the money they put into, other funds and stocks and stuff like that, which I don't really pay attention to, because I trust my guy. So I think having a good financial advisor or somebody that helps you manage your finances is really important. And I don't want to stress about what stocks I have to buy or, what to invest in. So I just, I give my money to my guy, and then he takes care of it. And, I try to, invest as much as I can each year to where I have a little bit in the bank account that if something happens.
Well, we agree with all those concepts. Obviously, that's what's called an emergency fund. Make sure you have enough money for any kind of short-term emergencies that arise, the whole leak in the roof or whatnot. But we like to to rely on your financial advisor.
Well, Jason, honestly, it's really amazing to see what you're doing, and also you're doing everything right, which is kind of what you've done your whole life. It's if you do the right things, and we were talking to Corey Overtime Anderson, which he doesn't love his nickname, but it's still a good name. We were talking to him, right? He said, I did everything that I was supposed to do. There was a roadmap, and I feel the same way in my life. It's people were like, if you want to be successful, do A, B, C, X, Y, Z. And I always said I wasn't the hardest worker. I wasn't the smartest guy, but I was the best executor out there. And I knew how to execute day in and day out. When I saw something good, I said, okay, this can help me and this will help build. And here's the reason why I'm doing it. And I could logically understand, I could physically realize, I can see the actual potential for it. I don't wait to do it. And I executed it immediately, which is really what you're doing. You probably saw opportunities, and someone said, keep an emergency fund. You probably saw opportunities in the home, and you were like, hey, let's just go out and do it. So you did all of these things, and you're doing everything right. And it's really an amazing role model, not only just for people who are athletes, but it's really an amazing role model for all people, that you can be at this level, but also have the rest of your life taken care of at the same time. And it's such an amazing thing to learn this. And that's really what I took from this podcast. Jason, can you give us a plug? Where can people find you? How can people book clinics? Where can people see some of your coaching and your teaching on your soon to be app?
Yeah. So we have a platform right now. It's app.athletesocean.com. If you Google Athletes Ocean, it'll probably be the first link that you see on Google. You can check out all my instructional videos, and then all the other high-level wrestlers' instructional videos on there. If you want to find me, or follow me on Instagram at Jason Nolf, and then you can send me a DM if you're trying to do a clinic. You can send me a DM on Instagram. I pretty much try to respond to everybody on there. I try to be a really quick responder. So if you message me and I didn't respond, it means I didn't see it. So I try to respond to people quickly as possible. I think that's one key to success in business is just being really good and quick in responding to people, which I appreciate. You guys have been great. But yeah, Instagram or app.athletesocean.com.
Nice. Jason, thanks so much for coming. We really appreciate you coming on.
Great meeting.
And we're excited to see you at top of the podium in everything that you do in your life. You've already hit the top of the podium in so many things. And I love that you keep pushing yourself and keep challenging yourself. And I'm excited to see some of the guys, the old school guys, get taken down before they retire, taken down by you, and I'll feel like, hey, maybe I motivated you for an extra second or two. Jason Nolf, thanks so much.
He needs it.
He doesn't need the motivation, but know that people are behind you and know that people really appreciate it. And we really appreciate the values that you have as a person. And that's really what makes you so successful. And I think it's such an amazing takeaway. Jason Nolf, everybody, thanks so much for coming. We'll see you on the next one.